The galaxy was old, very old. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Confederation had ruled the stars. 17 different alien species worked together, traded together, and kept peace together. They built great cities on distant worlds. They traveled between stars as easily as humans once traveled between cities. They believed they were the most advanced beings in the universe. Then they found Earth. It was a small blue planet on the outer edge of the galaxy. The aliens watched it carefully for many years. They saw the humans fight wars. They saw them build machines. They saw them reach for the sky with rockets and dreams, and the aliens became afraid. Humans were different from other species. They were aggressive. They never stopped pushing forward. When they faced a problem, they did not accept it. They fought against it until they won. The Confederation had seen many species rise and fall over thousands of years, but they had never seen anything like humanity. The High Senate met in a great hall made of crystal and light. Representatives from all 17 species gathered to decide what to do about Earth. Some wanted to make contact. Others wanted to destroy the humans before they could spread. But in the end, they chose a middle path. They would build a cage. The Confederation's scientists created something called a containment barrier. It was invisible to human eyes. It surrounded Earth and its nearby stars like a bubble. Any ship that tried to leave would be torn apart by powerful forces. Humanity would live and die in their small corner of space, never knowing that the rest of the galaxy existed. The aliens were pleased with their work. They returned to their lives and forgot about the strange creatures on the blue planet. Surely, the humans would destroy themselves eventually. All primitive species did. But they were wrong. 200 years passed. Captain Park stood alone on the observation deck of station. He was 43 years old with tired eyes and hair at his temples. Through the window, he could see the stars stretching out forever. Somewhere out there was the barrier. Somewhere out there was the invisible wall that had killed so many of his people. Humanity had discovered the barrier 80 years ago. A deep space probe had hit it first, then a cargo ship, then a military vessel with 300 people on board. Each time, the result was the same. The ship simply broke apart, crushed by forces that human science could not explain. At first, people thought it was a natural phenomenon, a strange region of space where physics worked differently. But as the years passed, patterns emerged. The barrier was too perfect, too complete. It surrounded human space in every direction. Someone had built it. Someone had decided that humanity should never leave their cage. The door behind opened. Commander walked in quietly. She was younger than him, with sharp features and even sharper eyes. She had been his second in command for 5 years now. The probe results came back, she said. Her voice was flat but could hear the pain beneath it. How many? VII is gone. The barrier destroyed it completely. No survivors, she paused. That makes 47 ships we have lost, over 600 crew members. Did not turn from the window. He had known this would happen. He had signed the order that sent those people to their deaths. Every captain before him had done the same. For 80 years, humanity had been throwing itself against the barrier like a bird against a glass window. And for 80 years, the barrier had not moved. We cannot keep doing this, said quietly. Every few months we send another ship. Every few months more people die. The government is losing support. People are starting to say we should just accept our situation. Accept being prisoners, finally turned to face her. Accept that some alien species decided we do not deserve the stars. Captain, I'm not saying I agree with them, but we have tried everything. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs. We even crashed an asteroid into the barrier. Nothing works. Walked to his desk and pulled up a holographic display. It showed Earth and the surrounding systems, and around them all, a thin red line marked the edge of their prison. Whoever built this, he said, they watched us for years before they decided to cage us. They studied us. They saw how we fight, how we never give up. He looked at with something burning in his eyes, and they were still afraid of us. That means something. What does it mean? It means they knew that if we ever got out, we would come for them. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And they were right. A message appeared on his screen. It was marked with the highest level of security clearance. Read it twice before he believed what it said. Get the senior staff together, he told, all of them right now. What is happening? Looked at her, and for the first time in years, she saw hope in his face. Someone found another way out. 3 days later stood in a place that did not officially exist. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, hidden from satellites and sensors, a massive facility stretched through the rock. He had traveled here in secret, using fake identities and unmarked ships. Whatever was happening here, the government did not want anyone to know about it. A woman met him at the entrance. Her name was Doctor, and she looked like she had not slept in months. Her hair was messy. Her clothes were wrinkled, but her eyes were alive with excitement. Captain Park, she said, shaking his hand. Thank you for coming. I know this was a difficult journey. The message said you found a way through the barrier. Is that true? Smiled, not through, around. Well, not around either. It is hard to explain. She started walking and followed her deeper into the facility. Tell me, Captain, what do you know about the space between dimensions? I am a soldier, not a scientist. Fair enough. Let me put it simply. They entered a large room filled with computers and strange machines. Scientists moved between workstations, speaking in words that did not understand. The barrier works by disrupting normal space. When a ship tries to use faster-than-light travel, the barrier tears it apart. It is very effective. I know, I have seen the bodies. Nodded sadly. But the barrier can only affect normal space. What if there was a place that existed outside of space? A place where the rules of physics do not apply. She led him to a large screen that showed something's mind could not process. It looked like nothing, pure emptiness. But somehow it also looked like everything. We call it the void, said. It is not space. It is not time. It is what existed before the universe was born, and I have found a way to travel through it. Stared at the screen. If this works, we can bypass the barrier completely. Yes, we can go anywhere in the galaxy instantly. The barrier cannot stop us because we will not be traveling through normal space at all. Why are you telling me this? I am just a captain. Turned to face him. Her eyes were serious now. Because we built something, Captain Park, something that will change everything. She gestured for him to follow. We did not just create a new type of engine. We built a ship, and that ship needs a commander. They walked through a massive door into a cavern so large that could not see the ceiling. And there, suspended in a web of support structures and construction equipment, was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. It was black, completely black, like a hole cut into reality. It was over a kilometer long, covered in weapons that looked like they could crack planets. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was built for one purpose only. War. We call it said softly. It took us 6 years to build in complete secrecy, and it is finally ready. Could not speak, he could only stare. The beings who caged us thought they were protecting themselves, continued. They thought the barrier would keep us contained forever. They were wrong. She looked at the massive warship with pride burning in her eyes. And now, Captain, we are going to show them exactly how wrong they were. Captain Park spent 3 weeks learning about Every day he walked through its dark corridors. Every night he studied its systems until his eyes burned. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It was not just advanced, it was impossible. The hull was made from something the scientists called void metal. They had pulled it from the space between dimensions, from the void itself. Normal weapons could not damage it. Energy passed through it like light through glass. Even nuclear explosions would simply wash over its surface like water over stone. But the weapons were what truly frightened. The main cannon did not fire missiles or plasma or anything that made sense. It fired absence, pure nothing. Whatever the beam touched simply stopped existing, not destroyed, not burned, just gone, as if it had never been there at all. "We do not fully understand how it works," Doctor admitted one evening. They were sitting in her laboratory, surrounded by equations that looked like alien writing. "The void is not empty. It is the opposite of existence. When we channel it through the weapon systems, it removes things from reality." "Removes them to where?" "Nowhere. They do not go anywhere. They just stop being." She rubbed her tired eyes. "I know it sounds impossible, but so does everything about this ship." Thought about the barrier, about the hundreds of people who had died trying to break through it, about the aliens who had decided that humanity was too dangerous to be free. "How soon can we launch?" he asked. "The ship is ready. The crew is trained. We were just waiting for a commander." Looked at him carefully. "But I need to ask you something first, Captain. What will you do when you get out there?" It was a fair question. Had asked it to himself many times. "First, I want answers," he said. "I want to know who built the barrier. I want to know why they feared us so much. I want to look them in the eye and make them explain why they let our people die for 200 years. And after you get your answers." Was quiet for a long moment. "That depends on what they say." The crew of the came from every nation on Earth. They were the best soldiers, the scientists, and the bravest pilots that humanity had to offer. They had all volunteered knowing they might never come home. They had all accepted that they might be the first humans to see the wider galaxy. Or the last. Commander arrived at the facility on a cold morning in December. She had requested the transfer herself after told her what was happening. Now she stood beside him on the bridge of the, looking at screens that showed systems she did not recognize. "This is really happening," she said quietly. "Yes. We are going to leave. We are going to fly past the barrier and see what is out there." "Yes." She turned to face him. "Are you afraid?" Considered the question honestly. He had been a soldier for over 20 years. He had faced death many times. But this was different. This was not just a battle. This was humanity's first step into a universe that had already decided they were too dangerous to exist. "Terrified," he admitted. "But I have been afraid my whole life. Afraid of the barrier. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of dying in a cage." He looked at the main, which showed the empty blackness of space. "I would rather be afraid out there than safe in here." The other senior officers took their positions. Lieutenant sat at the weapons station. She was young but had the highest accuracy scores in the entire fleet. Navigation officer Minu took the helm. He had piloted ships through asteroid fields and solar storms. Nothing scared him anymore. And in a special room at the heart of the ship, the quantum AI called HANSOL waited. It had spent 7 years calculating the path through the void. It had mapped routes that no human mind could understand. Without it, they would be lost forever in the space between dimensions. Doctor's voice came through the communication system. She was staying behind to monitor their progress from the facility. "Captain Park, all systems are ready. The void drive is powered up. HANSOL has confirmed the navigation solution." She paused. "History will remember this moment. Whatever happens next, know that you have already changed everything." Nodded to himself. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Every face showed determination. Every eye burned with purpose. These were the people who would carry humanity into the stars. "All hands," he said, his voice carrying through every corridor of the massive ship. "This is the captain speaking. For 200 years we have been prisoners. For 200 years we have watched our friends and families die trying to break free. Today that ends." He stood from his chair. "I will not lie to you. I do not know what waits for us out there. The beings who built the barrier are powerful enough to cage an entire species. They may have weapons we cannot imagine. They may have fleets that could crush us in moments." He paused. But they made one mistake. They underestimated us. They thought we would accept our prison. They thought we would give up. His voice grew harder. They were wrong. Humanity does not give up. Humanity does not surrender. When someone puts a wall in front of us, we do not stop. We find a way through, or around, or under. We never stop fighting. That is who we are. That is what makes us human. He sat back down and looked at the officer. Take us into the void. Minu's hands moved across his controls. The engines hummed with power that came from outside of reality itself. The lights on the bridge flickered once, twice, 3 times. And then space broke. There was no other way to describe it. The stars in front of them did not move or shift. They cracked. Like glass shattering in slow motion, reality itself split apart. Through the cracks could see something that made his mind want to shut down. The void. It was not black. It was not empty. It was nothing, true nothing. The absence of existence itself. Looking at it felt like looking at a color that did not exist, at a shape that could not be real. Several crew members gasped. One covered her eyes. Entering the void in 3 seconds, Minu said. His voice was steady even though his hands were shaking. 2, 1. The moved forward and reality closed behind them. Inside the void there was no sense of movement, no sense of time. Looked at the and saw impossibilities. Shapes that twisted through dimensions that should not exist. Colors that had no names. Sounds that came from everywhere and nowhere at once. HANSOL's calm voice filled the bridge. Navigation is stable. We are following the calculated path. Estimated travel time to the galactic core, 4 minutes and 17 seconds. 4 minutes. To cross a distance that would take normal ships thousands of years. The power of the void was beyond anything had imagined. "How are you all doing?" he asked his crew. "I would like to never do this again," said from the weapons station. "But I am managing." "I cannot stop looking at it," Minu admitted. "It is horrible and beautiful at the same time." Moved to stand beside's chair. "What do you think is waiting for us?" "I do not know, but whatever it is, they are about to learn that the cage is broken." He watched the impossible shapes drift past and the birds are very, very angry. 3 minutes passed like 3 hours. Then HANSOL spoke again. "Approaching exit point. Prepare for transition to normal space. Warning, multiple vessel signatures detected at destination. Approximately 47 ships of unknown design." Felt his heart beat faster. This was it. The moment humanity would announce itself to the galaxy. "Battle stations," he ordered. "Shields to maximum. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless I give the command." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. There was a warship, and its crew knew their jobs. "Exiting the void in 5 seconds, HANSOL announced. 4, 3, 2, 1. Reality screamed. The tore through the fabric of space like a knife through paper. The crack it created was visible for thousands of kilometers, a wound in existence itself. And from that wound, humanity emerged. Captain Park looked at and saw something that took his breath away. A space station larger than any city on Earth hung in the darkness. Around it, dozens of alien ships floated in formation. They were beautiful and strange, with designs that spoke of technology far beyond human understanding. And beyond them, stars filled the sky in numbers that had never imagined. The galaxy, the real galaxy, not the small corner that humanity had been allowed to see. "We made it," whispered. Nodded slowly. They had escaped the cage. They had reached the stars. But as the alien ships began to move toward them, he knew that their journey was just beginning. "Open a channel," he said. "All frequencies, let them hear the voice of humanity." And as the communication systems came online, Captain Park prepared to deliver a message that would change the universe forever. Admiral had commanded the defense fleet at Nexus Prime for 12 years. It was a comfortable job, a quiet job. The station was the largest trading hub in the galactic core, home to millions of beings from dozens of species. Nothing had threatened the core worlds in 3,000 years. So when his second-in-command burst into his quarters with panic in his eyes, did not take it seriously. "Calm yourself," he said, setting down his evening tea. "What could possibly be so urgent?" Was a species known for their cool logic and steady nerves. But right now, his six-fingered hands were trembling. "Admiral, our sensors detected something impossible. Space-time readings went negative. For a fraction of a second, a region of space simply did not exist. A sensor malfunction. That is what we thought. But then we received reports from 17 other stations. The same reading, the same anomaly, swallowed hard. And it was moving." Felt the first cold touch of fear. Moving toward what? Before could answer, reality screamed. Through the viewport watched the universe break. There was no other way to describe it. The stars did not shift or move. They cracked. Like glass being shattered by an invisible hammer, space itself split open, and from that wound something emerged. The ship was black, not just dark, black in a way that hurt to look at, as if light itself was afraid to touch it. It was massive, over a kilometer long, covered in weapons that looked like they could tear planets apart. It hung in space like a predator waiting to strike. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Ships began to move into defensive positions, but could not look away from the impossible vessel. "What is that?" he whispered. "Unknown design, unknown origin. We have nothing in our databases that matches it," checked his scanner. "Admiral, I am detecting life signs on board. They are human." Human spun to face him. "That is impossible, the barrier." "The barrier is intact. They did not come through it. They came from somewhere else, somewhere outside of normal space." The communication system crackled to life. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language that the translation system struggled to process. Then slowly, the words became clear. "This is Captain Park of the Earth vessel." The voice was calm, controlled, but beneath that control was something that made blood run cold. Anger, ancient, patient anger that had been building for 2 centuries. "For 200 years you caged our species without explanation, without warning, without mercy. You watched us throw ourselves against your barrier. You counted our dead and did nothing." On the bridge of the captain stood before the. Behind him, his crew worked in focused silence. Commander monitored the alien ships that were surrounding them. Lieutenant kept her hand ready on the weapons controls. Navigation officer Minu held the ship steady. "We found another way," continued. "And now we have questions. You have one opportunity to answer them." He waited. The alien ships continued to circle. 47 vessels, each one capable of destroying human cities. Against them, the stood alone. Admiral's response came through the speakers. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Confederation space illegally. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, you will be destroyed." Felt something cold settle in his chest. He had hoped, even expected, that the aliens would try to talk, that they would explain why they had imprisoned humanity, that there would be some reason, some logic behind 200 years of suffering. But they were not even going to try. "Admiral," he said, "I am going to ask you one question. Answer honestly and perhaps we can find a peaceful solution." He paused. "Why did you build the barrier? Why did you cage my people?" There was a long silence. Then's voice came back, dripping with contempt. "Because you are dangerous. Because you breed like insects and fight like animals. Because if we had allowed you to spread, you would have consumed the galaxy like a plague." The Admiral laughed. "You should be grateful we did not simply destroy your world. Now surrender. This is your final warning." Closed his eyes. Somewhere deep inside him, the last hope for peace died quietly. "Commander," he said softly, "what is the status of the alien fleet?" All 47 ships have weapons locked on us. They are waiting for orders to fire. Lieutenant, is the main cannon ready? His voice was steady. Ready and charged, Captain. Opened his eyes. They made their choice. Admiral gave the order to fire. 47 ships unleashed their weapons at once. Plasma beams that could crack moons. Missiles that carried enough power to shatter continents. Energy lances that had destroyed 1,000 enemy vessels over the centuries. All of it struck the... None of it mattered. The void metal hull did not block the attacks. It did not absorb them. It simply existed in a way that the weapons could not touch. The energy passed through the ship like light through glass, continuing into empty space behind it. The missiles exploded against nothing, their fire washing over the black surface without leaving a single mark. On the Confederation flagship stared at his sensors in disbelief. Admiral, our weapons are having no effect. The enemy vessel is completely undamaged. Felt fear for the first time in his long life. Real fear, the kind that made civilizations fall. All ships maximum firepower, destroy that thing. The alien fleet fired again, and again, and again. The space around them became a storm of energy and explosions. Any other ship would have been vaporized in seconds, but the human warship simply hung there, waiting. On the bridge, watched the light show with cold eyes. They are afraid, said quietly. They are throwing everything they have at us because they do not understand what we are. They will understand soon enough. Turn to, Lieutenant, show them what we brought. His hands moved across her controls. Deep in the heart of the void cannon began to draw power, not from reactors or generators, from the void itself, from the infinite well of non-existence that existed beneath reality. The cannon fired. There was no beam, no flash of light, no explosion. One moment 3 Confederation battleships existed. The next moment they did not. They were simply gone. No debris, no radiation, no sign that they had ever been there. The void cannon had removed them from existence entirely. Silence filled the communication channels. Every ship in the alien fleet had just watched 3 of their most powerful vessels disappear without a trace. All ships retreat, screamed. Fall back to the station, fall back. But it was too late. The moved forward. It did not fly so much as glide like a shark swimming through dark water. The void cannon fired again and again. Each time another ship vanished. Each time the Confederation fleet grew smaller. Some vessels tried to run. That was faster. Some tried to hide behind the station. The cannons beam passed through shields and armor like they were not there. Some tried to surrender, broadcasting pleas for mercy on all channels. Captain heard their cries. He thought about the 600 humans who had died against the barrier. He thought about the children who had grown up knowing they would never see the stars. He thought about 2 centuries of imprisonment and silence and fear. No surrender, he said. They gave us none, they received none. 37 minutes after the battle began, it was over. The greatest defensive fleet in Confederation history had been erased from existence. The space around Nexus Prime was empty except for thee and the terrified station. Looked at the... Millions of aliens were watching from the station, waiting to see what the humans would do next. Open a channel to the station, he ordered. A moment later, his voice carried to every being on Nexus Prime. This is Captain Park. I did not come here to conquer. I did not come here to destroy. I came here for answers. He paused. Your fleet chose to attack instead of talk. Your admiral chose violence instead of truth. They paid the price for that choice. He stood from his chair. I will say this once. We are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. We do not want war, we want freedom. We want to know why you caged us. We want justice for our dead. His voice grew harder. And we will have it, one way or another. He looked at and she nodded. We will wait here for one standard day. If your leaders want to talk, we will listen. If they send more ships, He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Well, you saw what happened to the last fleet. The channel closed. On the bridge, the crew sat in exhausted silence. They had just fought the first battle between humanity and the galaxy. They had won completely. But knew this was only the beginning. Word of what happened here would spread. Every species in the Confederation would learn that the humans had escaped, that they had a weapon that could not be stopped, that the prisoners were free and angry. War was coming, could feel it in his bones. But for the first time in 200 years, humanity would fight that war on their own terms, and the galaxy would learn what happened when you cornered the human race. They would learn to be afraid. News of the battle at Nexus Prime spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species in the Confederation knew what had happened. The humans had escaped. They had destroyed 47 warships without taking a single hit. They had weapons that could erase matter from existence. The panic was immediate and total. On 100 worlds, governments called emergency meetings. Military commanders pulled their fleets back to defensive positions. Scientists studied the sensor data from Nexus Prime, trying to understand how the human ship worked. But no one had answers. That was beyond anything they had ever seen. The High Senate convened on the Confederation's capital world. It was the first emergency session in 400 years. Representatives from all 17 founding species gathered in the Great Hall, shouting over each other in a chaos of fear and anger. Ambassador of the Communion stood at the central platform, trying to restore order. His species was known for diplomacy and calm thinking, but even he struggled to control the panic. We must think rationally, he pleaded. Yes, the humans have escaped. Yes, they have powerful weapons, but they are only one ship. They cannot threaten our entire civilization. One ship destroyed our entire defense fleet, shouted General of the Vanguard. He was a massive creature covered in scales and scars from 100 battles. One ship, Ambassador. What happens when they build 10, 100, 1,000? Then we destroy them before they can build more. This came from High Counselor Myra of the Ascendancy, the oldest and most respected member of the Senate. We know where there is. We send everything we have. We end this threat forever. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber, but shook his head. You do not understand what we are dealing with. I have studied the humans for many years. They are not like us. When we face impossible odds, we calculate the most logical response. When they face impossible odds, he paused. They get angry. And when humans get angry, they do not stop fighting until their enemy is completely destroyed or they are dead. Then we make sure they are dead, growled. And if we fail, if even one of them survives, they will rebuild. They will come back stronger, and they will never ever forgive us. Looked around the chamber. We caged them for 200 years. We let their children die against our barrier. What do you think they will do to us if we try to destroy them and fail? Silence fell over the Senate. For the first time, the representatives began to understand the true depth of the situation. This was not just a military problem. This was an existential threat. Then what do you suggest? High Counselor Myra asked quietly. We talk, we explain, we apologize. Held up his hands as protests erupted. I know. It goes against everything we believe. But the humans have shown they are willing to negotiate. They waited at Nexus Prime for a full day before leaving. They are looking for answers, not conquest. And if they do not accept our apology, then we fight, but at least we will have tried. The debate continued for 3 days. In the end, fear won over wisdom. The Senate voted to assemble the combined fleet, the largest military force in Confederation history. 200 warships from every species, carrying the most advanced weapons available. They would find thee and destroy it. The humans, they decided, had to die. Captain Park received the news from HANSOL. The AI had been monitoring Confederation communications since their arrival, decoding their languages and intercepting their messages. They are sending 200 ships, told his senior officers. They were gathered in the briefing room, studying tactical displays. They will arrive in approximately 48 hours. Commander studied the data carefully. Can we defeat 200 ships? These weapons are more than capable, HANSOL answered. However, such a battle would take considerable time, and there is a risk, however small, of damage to our systems. Lieutenant leaned forward. Captain, if I may, I have been thinking about our situation. We came here to free humanity, not to fight an endless war. Even if we destroy this fleet, they will send another, and another. We cannot fight the entire galaxy forever. What are you suggesting? Asked. We need to change the rules. Pulled up a display showing the containment barrier around Earth. The barrier is still active. Even if we win every battle, humanity is still trapped. But what if we destroyed the barrier itself? What if we freed not just ourselves, but everyone? Stared at the display. He had not thought about it that way. The barrier had always seemed permanent, unchangeable, but the had changed everything else. HANSOL, he said. Can the void cannon destroy the barrier generators? Calculating. The AI was silent for several seconds. Yes, the barrier is maintained by a network of generator stations positioned around human space. If those stations are destroyed, the barrier will collapse. However, the generators are spread across 17 locations. I would need to fire at each one individually. How long would that take? Approximately 12 minutes for all 17 targets. His eyes widened. 12 minutes to free humanity after 200 years. There is one complication, HANSOL continued. The barrier generators are hidden. Their locations are not in any database I can access. We would need to search for them manually, which could take considerable time. Navigation Officer Minu had been quiet throughout the meeting. Now he spoke up. Captain, I think I have an idea. The Confederation believes we want to conquer them. They believe we are monsters who will destroy everything in our path. But what if we showed them something different? Explain. We have been intercepting their communications. HANSOL can broadcast on their networks. Minu's eyes were bright with excitement. What if we did not just talk to the fleet? What if we talked to everyone? Every citizen of every species in the entire Confederation? Felt something stir in his chest. It was hope, real hope, for the first time since the battle at Nexus Prime. You want to tell them the truth? Yes, about the barrier, about why it was built, about the fact that we are not the only species they have caged over the. Minu leaned forward. HANSOL found records. 17 other species were contained or destroyed by the Confederation over the past 12,000 years. The humans were not the first, just the first to escape. The room went silent. Had known the Confederation was capable of evil, but this was something else entirely. An entire civilization built on fear and control, willing to destroy anyone who might challenge their power. If we release that information, he said slowly, it will change everything. That is the idea. Looked at his officers, nodded firmly. Eyes burned with determination. Minu waited hopefully. They had all given up everything to be here. They had all risked their lives for this moment. HANSOL said, prepare a broadcast. Every frequency, every network, every system in the Confederation. I want every being in this galaxy to hear what I have to say. Ready when you are, Captain. Stood and walked to the center of the bridge. Showed the stars stretching out in every direction. Somewhere out there, the combined fleet was gathering to destroy him. Somewhere out there, billions of aliens were waiting to see what the humans would do next. He took a deep breath. Begin transmission. His voice carried across the galaxy, to capital worlds and frontier colonies, to military bases and civilian homes, to every being who had ever wondered if the Confederation was truly as noble as it claimed. "Citizens of the Confederation," he said, "I am Captain Park of the human vessel. Your leaders have told you that we are monsters, that we escaped our prison to destroy everything you have built, that we must be stopped at any cost." He paused. "They are lying." Images began to appear alongside his words, records that HANSOL had pulled from classified databases, evidence of crimes that the Confederation had hidden for thousands of years. 200 years ago, your government discovered my species. They watched us for decades. They saw that we were curious, aggressive, and determined to reach the stars, and they were afraid. His voice grew harder. So they built a cage, an invisible prison around our corner of the galaxy. They watched as we threw ourselves against it. They counted our dead, over 600 people, and they did nothing. The images showed the 17 other species. Some had been contained like humans. Others had been destroyed completely, their worlds burned and their people erased from history. We were not the first. The Confederation has been caging and destroying species for 12,000 years. Anyone who might threaten their power, anyone who might challenge their control. They claim to bring peace to the galaxy, but their peace is built on fear and silence and death. Looked directly into the camera. "I did not come here to conquer. I did not come here to destroy. I came here to break chains." He gestured at the. "Your leaders are sending 200 ships to kill me, to silence me before you can learn the truth. But it is too late. You have already heard." He raised his hand. "And now, I am going to show you what freedom looks like." On the tactical display, 17 red dots appeared around human space. The barrier generators finally revealed. "Those are the machines that have imprisoned my people for 2 centuries. In a few minutes they will be gone, and humanity will be free," smiled grimly. "If your leaders want to stop me, they are welcome to try. But I promise you this, for every ship they send we will answer, not with conquest, not with destruction, but with the truth." He straightened to his full height. "Humanity did not escape its cage to become what our captors feared. We escaped to prove them wrong. We are not monsters. We are explorers, dreamers, builders, and we will not rest until every species in this galaxy has the same freedom that we are about to claim." The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, looked at his crew. "Lieutenant, target the barrier generators." "Targeting complete." "Fire." The void cannon spoke 17 times. Across 50 light-years, 17 stations vanished from existence, and with them, the barrier that had imprisoned humanity for 200 years. On Earth, sensors detected the change immediately. The strange interference that had blocked their ships for so long suddenly disappeared. Space was open. The stars were waiting. And in the darkness between worlds, Captain Park watched the combined fleet approach. 200 ships, sent to destroy the only thing that had ever challenged the Confederation's power. "Sir," said quietly, "they are still coming." "I know," sat down in his chair. "But now the whole galaxy is watching, and they will see exactly what kind of people we really are." The battle for the future of humanity was about to begin. The combined fleet arrived in a storm of light and power. 200 warships from 17 species, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. They surrounded the like wolves circling a wounded animal. But the animal was not wounded, and it was not afraid. Admiral had survived the disaster at Nexus Prime. He had watched his fleet disappear one ship at a time, helpless to stop it. Now he commanded the largest military force ever assembled in Confederation history, and he was terrified. "All ships hold position," he ordered. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "Do not fire until my command." On the bridge of the, Captain Park watched the enemy fleet spread out across the. The numbers were overwhelming. Even with the void cannon, even with armor that could not be damaged, the battle ahead would be difficult. But something had changed since his broadcast. HANSOL was monitoring communications across the galaxy, and what the AI heard was remarkable. "Captain," HANSOL reported, "I am detecting significant unrest in Confederation space, civil demonstrations on 47 worlds, military units refusing deployment orders. 3 member species have formally requested emergency sessions to discuss leaving the Confederation." Commander looked up from her station. "The truth is spreading faster than they can contain it," allowed himself a small smile. The Confederation spent 12,000 years building their power on secrets and lies. One broadcast cannot destroy that, but it can crack the foundation. Admiral's voice came through the speakers. "Human vessel, this is your final warning. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Stood and walked to the center of the bridge. He knew that every ship in the enemy fleet was watching. He knew that billions of beings across the galaxy were listening. "Admiral," he said calmly, "I remember you. You were at Nexus Prime. You watched 47 of your ships disappear and you did nothing but run." He let the words hang in the air. "Do you really want to try again? You are outnumbered 200 to 1. Numbers did not save you last time," gestured at the, "but I did not come here to fight. I came here to offer you a choice." Laughed bitterly. "What choice could you possibly offer?" "Peace." The word echoed through every speaker on every ship. Real peace, not the false peace of cages and fear, not the silence of dead worlds and erased species. Actual, genuine peace between equals. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "You destroyed our fleet. You humiliated the Confederation in front of the entire galaxy, and now you want peace." "I destroyed ships that were trying to kill me. I revealed truths that your government had hidden for. I freed my people from a prison they never deserved." His voice grew harder. "None of that had to happen. You could have talked to us. You could have explained. You could have treated us as partners instead of threats. You chose war. We simply refused to lose. And if we attack now, if we destroy you, then humanity will know. They will see what the Confederation does to those who seek freedom, and they will come for you. Not one ship, all of them, every human who can hold a weapon, every scientist who can build a bomb, every pilot who can fly a shuttle, stepped closer to the. You caged us for 200 years, Admiral. You taught us patience. You taught us anger. You taught us that the universe wants us dead. Do you really want to see what happens when you prove us right?" Silence fell across the void. On 100 ships, commanders looked at their weapons and wondered if they were enough. On 100 worlds, citizens watched the standoff and held their breath. Then slowly, one of the Confederation ships powered down its weapons. It was a small vessel from a minor species called the. Their representative in the Senate had voted against the attack. Now their captain was making a choice. "This is captain of the cruiser Harmony," a voice said over the open channel. "I am standing down. I will not fire on beings who seek peace." Another ship followed, then another. Within minutes, 30 vessels had powered down their weapons. They were still a minority, but the cracks in the Confederation's unity were showing. Admiral watched his fleet fall apart. He had orders from the High Senate. He had the authority to destroy the human ship. But he also had eyes. He could see what was happening. The Confederation was built on the obedience of its members. If that obedience broke, everything fell apart. "What do you want?" he asked finally. His voice was tired, defeated. "A meeting," said. "Representatives from every species, including humanity. No weapons, no threats, just a conversation about what happens next." "The Senate will never agree." "The Senate is losing control. You know it. I know it. Every captain in your fleet knows it," gestured at the ships that had stood down. "The universe is changing, Admiral. You can be part of that change or you can be swept away by it. The choice is yours." Was silent for a long time. Then he did something no one expected. He laughed. "You are exactly as dangerous as we feared," he said, "but not in the way we thought. You are not conquerors, you are revolutionaries." He shook his head slowly. "Very well, human, you will have your meeting, but do not think this is over. There are many in the Confederation who will never accept your kind." "I know," nodded, "but for now it is enough." The meeting took place 3 months later on a station built in neutral space. Representatives from every species in the Confederation gathered alongside the first official human delegation. Captain was there, along with Doctor and dozens of diplomats from Earth. The discussions were long and difficult. Centuries of fear could not be erased in a few weeks, but slowly, painfully, progress was made. The Confederation would reform. The policy of containment would end. Species would be allowed to develop naturally, with contact made only when they were ready. The records of past crimes would be released, and memorials would be built for those who had been destroyed. It was not perfect, it was not complete, but it was a beginning. On the final day of the conference, Captain stood on a balcony overlooking the station's central plaza. Ships from dozens of species came and went, trading and talking and simply existing together. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months ago. Commander found him there, staring at the stars. "The delegation from Earth is asking for you," she said. "They want to know your plans." "My plans?" "You are a hero, Captain. You freed humanity. You changed the galaxy. People want to know what you will do next." Thought about it. He thought about the still waiting in orbit. He thought about the void stretching endlessly beneath reality. He thought about all the stars he had never seen, all the worlds he had never visited. "I became a soldier because I wanted to protect my people," he said finally. "I fought because I had to, but the war is over now, at least this part of it. So what will you do?" He smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine, the first one in longer than he could remember. "Explore that was built for war, but HANSOL says it can be modified. There are parts of the galaxy no one has ever seen, mysteries no one has ever solved, now that humanity is free." He looked at with hope burning in his eyes. "I want to see what is out there, not as a conqueror, not as a soldier, just as a human being who finally has the chance to wonder." Nodded slowly. "And if you find more species like us, more cages, more barriers, then I will do what I did before, I will break them." Turned back to the viewport. "That is what humans do. We find walls and we tear them down. We find prisons and we set people free. It is who we are. It is who we will always be." The departed the next morning. Its crew had been joined by volunteers from a dozen species, all of them eager to see what lay beyond the known galaxy. They carried weapons, yes, but also scientists, artists, and dreamers. Captain Park stood on the bridge as the stars stretched out before him. Behind him, Earth glowed like a blue gem in the darkness. His home, his people, free at last. "Officer," he said, "set a course for the unknown." "Yes, sir," Minu smiled. "Any particular direction?" "Surprise me." The engines hummed with power drawn from the space between dimensions. Reality bent around the ship, preparing to carry it to places no human had ever seen. And as the vessel slipped into the void, Captain felt something he had never expected to feel again. Peace. Not the false peace of surrender, not the quiet peace of acceptance, but the true peace of someone who had fought for their freedom and won, someone who had proven that humanity deserved its place among the stars. The universe had tried to cage them. It had failed. The universe had tried to destroy them. It had failed. Now humanity was free, and the cosmos would never be the same. In the end, the aliens had been right about one thing. Humans were dangerous, not because they were violent or cruel or destructive, but because they never, ever gave up. And that was the most dangerous thing of all.